30 on.
We're talking Ball State. Don Shondell and Ray McCallum talking Ball State. Nate Davis and Bonzi Wells. Schumann, Belltower, and Worthen. Fans all over from Muncie to Berlin. Getting Concannons, Carters, and Greeks. All right, everyone out there in Cardinal land, welcome to another live edition of Ball State of the Union, your number one Ball State football podcast. By the fans, for the fans. We're talking current headlines, exclusive interviews with Cardinal athletes and coaches, and fun off-the-wall debates that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to us on all of your favorite social media platforms. And as always, when you hear that beautiful song, whether it's after a great win or after whatever it is we saw yesterday, you know we're about to be talking Ball State. I'm John, your host as always, joined tonight by Colin from Ball State Football Talk and the one, the only Ball State Hall of Famer, Mr. Willie Sneed. Now, everyone out there, we got to go over something real quick. We know we promised you Jonathan Newsome tonight. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty with Jonathan. We're going to push his interview back until Wednesday. We could get his audio to work. We couldn't quite get the camera to work for him, and we want to make sure we give the best interview possible for the Ball State fans. And I think that's going to be with video format. So I think we're going to be good to go on Wednesday with him. So if you came here to see Jonathan tonight, apologize, but it'll be on Wednesday. So check back at 8:30 on Wednesday, and we'll have Jonathan Newsome then. So, boys, we got a couple things to get to first, and then we're going to talk about Toledo. So first, as always, Ball State of the Union is a proud partner with the Shop Indy. That is www.theshopindy.com. Use that code BSUnion at checkout, and you will get free shipping on your order. Guys, Thanksgiving's this week. Black Friday's right around the corner. You're going to be needing to get all your present spot for all the Ball State fans on your list. Be sure to go to theshopindy.com, buy all the Ball State stuff they got, use code BSUnion at checkout, and get free shipping on your order. And as always, Ball State of the Union is a proud member of the College Huddle. The College Huddle is a nationwide network of independently made college football podcasts. Ball State of the Union is on their website. We're listed right there at the top of the group of five. I think we're the best group of five podcasts, in my opinion. So we're listed number one. Not that it's alphabetical, but we are listed number one. So go there, check it out. If anything you want to know about college football, they got it. They got all the teams covered. They got all the topics covered. So be sure to check out the College Huddle. Now, guys, before we get into the game against Toledo, I got something. I got an Instagram message this week that I really wanted to share and show out to everyone out there. So here's a picture I got. This is our friend Ryan. Ryan's a big fan of the show. You know, he says he watches and he talks about it with his family, his dad. He's a big fan of the show. He lives up in Wisconsin. That's his son, Dempsey. Now, why am I showing you guys this? He's got a Ball State Bonzi Wells jersey on there. But guys, check this out. He's got our guy in the Willie Sneed onesie. I love the Ball State Willie Sneed onesie.
Yes,
so shout out. This is his name's RM West. So Ryan up there in Wisconsin. Ryan and Dempsey, they're big fans of the show, and we're big fans of them. So Willie, what do you think when you see you got a little one out there in the Willie Sneed Ball State jersey?
Yeah, I love that, bro. I need that because my son is probably about the same size as him, and he'll probably look just as good as in that little onesie right there. But I love that, bro, and the support is real. So I appreciate y'all, man. That's real, bro.
Yeah. So Ryan, we see you all the time, commenting and getting involved in everything. So we appreciate you and all that you do and everything. So yeah, shout out to Dempsey. We got another member of Cardinal Nation up. He's here and he's ready. He's got the merch. He's showing everybody out there, there in Wisconsin what it means. So, guys, let's get into the game yesterday. I can't get too mad because this kind of went exactly how I thought it was going to. But I'm still sitting over here fuming after the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Colin, I'm going to start with you first because you're a little bit more positive than Willie and I can be at times. We're 24 hours removed. Where are you sitting from where are you sitting at this Ball State Toledo game? You know, it wasn't good.
Yeah, it wasn't good, John, but I did like the touchdown at the end just to see like the team didn't absolutely quit. DC Pippin got the field goal, like the longest field goal of the year so far. It's been kind of an inconsistent year. You know, we see flashes, and I think in the game there was a couple, good moments, especially late. But it's just too little, too late. So tough game to watch, really. But that was probably the toughest team we were going to play all year in the MAC. I think personally, other than maybe Western Michigan might have been up there too. But yeah, it was tough, John. It was tough.
Willie, I know me, you, and Colin were texting all day yesterday. Yeah, you've had a few hours now to kind of get your bearings about the everything Ball State Toledo yesterday. What's kind of your initial takeaways from what we saw?
Yeah, I think honestly the defense came to play. They played, their hearts out. Offensively, we just didn't help the defense out at all. I love that the defense got a couple takeaways for the game. They played them as tough as they could because Toledo is a great offense. They have playmakers, they got running backs, they got a quarterback that can make the throws. That's why I said the defense. They did a great job getting in the quarterback's face and creating a couple turnovers, but just offensively, it was just a struggle, man. It's hard to watch the offense and kind of trying to figure out what the identity of the offense is and what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, every drive. So honestly, it was just frustrating to watch the offense not be able to go down the field and put drives together and get points. It was good to see DC get a good long field goal in for the year, but I mean, he even missed a couple. He missed one before that one. That was kind of frustrating to see too. It's just like Colin said, the consistency of this team has been just, it's been up and down all year. And, if we want to be considered as one of the better teams in the MAC, kind of like up there with Toledo, we got to play more consistent and better football. And we just didn't see that. We didn't see competitive football on Saturday, unfortunately, from my point of view.
Yeah, it just seems like it's the same story every week. It feels like it's just the ineptitude or whatever you want to say about this offense and their inability to score. Can they move the ball at times? Sure, I guess. But once you get into that 20-yard, once you get in that red zone, they just can't get it in the end zone. There's really no other way to put it. So Ball State falls yesterday, 38-9. There's really nothing great to look at offensively here. Kyle Kelly, 13 of 30, 166 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a QBR of 7. Jalen Bonds, I know he came back from a big injury, so shout out to him. He did have 16 carries for about 60 yards and, another about 55 in the air. But, outside of that, there's really nothing to even go off of for this game. So, Colin, I'll kick it back to you here. Offensively, what's your takeaway? What's the problem here? Because I don't think it's even on one person. I think it's just the entire 11 guys. I think it's the guys calling plays. I think it's just collective group of offensive people for Ball State that just are not getting it done. It just seems like it's a square peg going into a round hole, and we're just trying it over and over again.
I think you're probably right, John, but let me start with the positive. You spoke on it. The backup, or so I guess our third stringer actually, because Quay Ashley's out, and then TJ Horton was, moved into that starting role. And then what's his first name, John? Jalen Bonds? Is it Jalen Bonds?
Mm-hmm.
I thought he looked good. I mean, he was running with some intention. I really like what he gave us yesterday. So that's a positive I didn't mention earlier, and we should give him a shout out. But as for what's going on with the offense, yeah, it's not pretty right now, and I think it's a bunch of different things here. So one, I can't tell, like, are we not? I'm not sure we're like scheming this appropriately. Like I just haven't seen guys, and we said this last week. Normally, every now and then you see a guy wide open, and it's like, oh man, Kelly missed him on that or something, and you're just not seeing that. Like I still, it was a rough game, and I don't want to be like, some of this is on the quarterback. When the team loses, two people who are going to get the blame, the coach and the quarterback. Everybody knows that, and some of this is on the quarterback. But at the same time, I'm rewatching every game after I watch the game, and I'm looking and I'm trying to see, like, oh, is he just missing it? It's like sometimes I feel like we're running a RPO, but there's only one guy that's like going out for a pass, and all the other wide receivers are blocking. So he's looking down that guy and then he just immediately takes off. And I don't know if it's the scheme or if it's the line or if it's just a mixture of we're not passing it fast enough. I just I don't really know what's to blame, John, but I think the most appropriate response is it's probably a mixture. It's probably a little bit of coaching. It's probably a little bit of the line. It's probably some on the quarterback, and wide receivers got to get open too. Like it takes 11 guys. And I know that sounds cliche, but like when there's two people not doing their job, this is what we get. You know what I mean? And that's my take on it. I know it's not as concise or as, this is what definitive as what the viewers are maybe hoping, but I think that's what's really true is that like this is a lot of things. It's not just one thing. Otherwise, we could just sit here and tell you, oh yeah, put in Aiden Leffler, or oh yeah, like this lineman needs to be out. But like I don't know that you really can.
Well, the craziest thing to me is that we see the same thing, it feels like, every single week. So I don't understand what changes are really being made. And Willie, I'll get to you in a second, and you can probably maybe shed some light onto what you're noticing if there are things changing every week. But it's just like it doesn't seem like anything's changing, and obviously the results aren't changing. So, Willie, before I kick it to you and kind of get your thoughts on the offense from yesterday, I want to remind everyone out there, if you're listening along and you want to get involved in the conversation, be sure to put your comments in the chats wherever you're watching, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be on Twitter or YouTube. Put them in the chats. Give us your thoughts on the game yesterday, and we will read them all at the end of the show. So, Willie, what have you noticed week over week from Ball State's offense? Because from a casual fan, and I mean, I'm a big football fan, but in terms of X's and O's, I'm definitely a casual person. What am I missing as a casual fan that maybe they're doing some things differently, or are they basically just running the same thing over and over again?
It's hard to say, but one thing for sure I've noticed is that we haven't been able to get into a consistent rhythm as an offense, kind of to see like our offense at work. You sometimes you could see like different teams, you could see their offense getting into their grooves, right? They could see them start to get into a rhythm, and then you can feel the momentum and all that good stuff. I've lacked that's something that we're lacking right now. Like we don't get into a rhythm. We don't have rhythm throws, rhythm plays where it's just like the quarterback is getting on schedule, right? Like we hear all these terms, but we don't get to see it. There's the lack of that, and that's something that we've been hoping for all year is just that this offense would start getting to a consistent rhythm to where we can see our playmakers, our outside guys getting touches, our run game starting to start to get consistent big runs and chunk plays, like stuff like that. So, that's what I've really been seeing missing. When we're not good on third down, it's going to be it's going to be a hard day at the office because, honestly, if we can be great on third down, we'll always be in the game. But, when we're getting off the field and we got to have our defense on the field too long, like that's not a formula for success. And, there's just been too many times where we just haven't been able to maintain drives, and being in third and manageable has been lack thereof. We've been in like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, third and those third down situations where it's just we got to look down the playbook and we got to find like chunk plays. So it's really hard honestly to get into a groove and get into a consistent offense and see the progression of it, like you're saying, John, like every week, it's just we haven't seen that growth. We haven't seen that, that positive like momentum to where we can see like this offense starting to click, So it's been a tough year, man. And unfortunately we only got one more game to change it or to do something about it. But it's got to start with just being great on first and second down, and then converting on third downs, guys. We got to get into a rhythm some way, and that's something that we haven't been able to do for most of the season.
Yeah, I just want to build on what you were saying, Willie, too. Like, we haven't really been able to get Kyle in a rhythm consistently, and like that's kind of a tough thing too because when he's cold, I feel like it's kind of hard to get him going. But like when he's already hot, he's so dangerous. Like when you have him in a rhythm, he could be one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the MAC when he's hot, when he's going. But like we haven't even done that consistently enough for that to really be seen, and it's unfortunate because I feel like every time he even has to get going, it's like late against Ohio and he's been cold the whole game and then he has to turn it on or something like that. You know, and it's never like, except for maybe Akron, we never get him going and then just watch him work. And like when we did do that, we got 42 points. And I don't know what's really changed from then to now. But if you would have told me after that Kent State game, this is going to be the last win of the season, I would not have believed you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to show something I saw online yesterday, which is not something I wanted to see, but this is going to kind of paint you a picture of the state of Ball State's offense right now. And it's this tweet from Toledo. They set a program record yesterday with 17 tackles for loss. That is a crazy number. And that's showing you that this is failing on every level. And you know, people are going to pile on Kyle Kelly. And if you're going to do that, then okay, I'm not necessarily going to pile on him individually. I'm going at this is at everybody. He's holding on the ball too long. They're not blocking well enough. And these guys aren't getting open. If it has to be the case. Otherwise, there's no way that you're going to get tackled for loss 17 different times. It has to be a failure on all levels. You know, they have to be calling the wrong plays. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can map out defenses and this, that, and the other, but I can certainly tell you that what we're doing and getting tackled for loss 17 times in one game is not working. So, Willie, am I saying anything out of hand here, or is that a pretty fair representation of if you're going to give up 17 tackles for a loss, you're pretty much failing at every level of the offense?
Yeah, this is a collective like group effort here. Like, this is on the coaches, this is on the quarterback, this is on the O-line, the playmakers. Like, you got to prepare for something like this. Like, if we know that this team brings a lot of pressure and we know that our offensive line isn't strong and blocking up front, like we got to be able to have outlets for the quarterback. We got to be able to run plays that gets the ball out, quicker than the D line are getting to the quarterback, so it's like you're taking away from that rush. It's just like when you see stuff like this, you can only scratch your head and really, wonder like, what is the preparation like, right? What does the week look like for these guys to be able to go out there and try to execute on Saturdays and to be competitive doing it, right? Like we're just not out there running plays. We're out there trying to get the most out of these plays and enforce our will on these teams at the same time. It's just like I don't know, man. It's when you see 17, this is just one team getting after the other, right? And Toledo got after our offense, and it's just as simple as that, man. Toledo was on a mission to make sure they protect the glass bowl, and that's something that we weren't able to do last week when it came to the shoe. So like whenever you're going into hostile environments like this, man, like where teams are on a roll and they're playing for something, protecting something at the same time, it's like you got to have your A game ready, and I just don't think we had that this game, especially with this result. You know, Toledo was just on their game, and we just didn't have any way to respond to be able to affect something like this from happening.
And I think we all sat on this show last week, and I think we were on Wednesday, and I think we were realistic about this. I didn't think any of us really, truly expected Ball State to go in there and win this game, but I certainly expected a better showing than this. Teams have clearly in the MAC, especially these last handful of weeks, they have really figured out this Ball State offense, and they know exactly what's going on. That's why I'm just curious. It's like if people are figuring us out, how are we not figuring that out? A, and B, how do we not change it? Is it the players we have? Is it the coaching? I don't know, but it's very frustrating to watch. Colin, when you see this 17 tackles for a loss, I know if you were a Toledo fan, you'd be loving this stat. As a Ball State fan, when you see this, what do you think?
I just know what I felt. And that was, I was watching the game, and, you've got a buddy watching the game with you that maybe didn't go to Ball State. And it was one of those situations where, like, the game was so out of hand so early that I felt guilty having it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, this was not a
yeah.
competitive game. Like, it was one of those situations where your buddy's just like, all right, I'm probably going to go home, and just, but like, that's the type of game it was. And there's no getting away from that. Like, I sat through the whole thing. I sit through every game. Like, when the game against a conference opponent is not competitive after 2 quarters, maybe 3 quarters, 2.5, it's just a terrible, terrible feeling. And it doesn't feel good, John. And so that when you see 17 tackles for loss, You just know you got thoroughly outplayed. You got manhandled, and that's what it was. We knew going in there if we didn't take care of business, if we didn't do what we needed to do, they were going to do this to us, and it's what ended up happening, honestly.
Yeah, and it's just, it'd be one thing if this was, the first time this has happened, but we have seen this over and over and over again this year.
Yeah.
And it's very disheartening. And so I guess, Willie, I'll go to you, and we won't labor on the offense for too much longer, but obviously it's the big talking point from this game yesterday and really the second half of the season. So Willie, how does this get fixed going forward? Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is not going to get fixed next week. So we go into next year. How does this get fixed? Because I can tell you what's going to happen right now from my perspective. What's going to happen right now is we're going to have a bad game next week. That's what I just think. We're going to wait this. We're going to get all excited all summer. And then we're going to go to Columbus, Ohio, week 1 and get our doors blown off. And then we're going to be sitting here week 2 saying, what the heck? Nothing has changed. When we get to week 2, week 3 next year, when, obviously, we're not playing in Ohio State, how is this fixed? Is there a new scheme? Is it new players? Obviously, we're going to have a lot of new players at all positions. That's just how it's going to be forever at Ball State football now. How does this get fixed?
Yeah, changes have to be made. And I think, definitely the players, them being able to be great in the transfer portal to bring in guys that Coach U will fit his system and fit the things that he wants to do. We got to get consistent quarterback play. We got to get bigger in the O-line, D-line category. Defensively, I think they just need to continue to build, and they need to continue to get bigger, faster, strong in the offseason. But, it's just the mentality, honestly. Year 2 of the Coach U program, the mentality should be different. The expectations should be known, especially with the second year being the head coach. I definitely think they need to bring in some wrinkles for the offense because I just think it's too vanilla. It's not. It just doesn't like bring in enough spice, enough change to the pace of the game. It's like there's got to be some consistency to the offense, and that's something we haven't seen all year. And I don't want to blame players. I don't want to blame the quarterback because it's like honestly, the quarterback is a reflection of the system. So if the quarterback is playing well and you see the system flowing through the quarterback, that's a reflection of the coaching staff. You know what I'm saying? So it's just being able to find what they do best, to be able to learn from the season, watching the games, being critical of the film, being able to grow from the film, and then, carry that into next year, right? And, they'll get better from it. And, this team will be more competitive next year. But we see how close these guys can be, right? Like we've been in a lot of games, some of the games it hasn't turned out our way, unfortunately, but there was a lot of positive throughout the year where we just saw like we'll be better next year in this situation, right? We'll be able to capitalize on these downs and these plays and these games that are the difference between win and loss. Because we were in a MAC championship hunt, right? We were right there at the end, even with all the bad losses we took that we should have won, right? We were in the hunt. So I think that's a positive. You can look into it, and then like I said, John, Colin, year 2 of the Coach U program has to look different from year 1. It has to look more downhill. It has to look more crisp on offense. We got to be able to move drives. We got to be able to have 10, 11, 12, 13 play drives where we're just going down the field and getting points, right? That's what Colin wants to be happy about. Colin wants to cheer for that type of offense, and so does everybody else at Ball State. So that's what week 2, week 3 of next year should look like. It should feel like right after we leave Columbus. And whatever happens there, happens there. But week 2, week 3, right, we just want to see the offense, right, become more crisp, more in rhythm, more playmaking. That's what we're looking for. And then defensively, just building on this year, right? Because I think defense, when we talk about them, they got better throughout the year. I think that's where we can say consistently the defense got better and better each week. And we can appreciate that because that's what we talked about, especially in the beginning of the year with the defense, them getting better each week.
Yeah, I just know it's always as a fan, it's very what have you done for me lately type thing. And so, ending this year not on a very good note at all offensively. And then rolling that into week 1 next year, I know going into week 2, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mad whether I should be or not. I'm going to be mad just because that's just how you are as a fan. And so I'm hoping that they can retool this offense. Get, if it's hey, we got to get our players in here, quote unquote. That's what we got to do, and let's see if we can get it. Because I think, like you said, this defense has really turned a big page from last year. And again, you're going to see 38 points, and that's not great. That's not going to end up being winning football. But with when you're on the field so much and your offense can't move the ball, I saw it with the Colts today. They couldn't move the ball, and the Chiefs could move the ball, and so the Colts defense, I think they doubled them up plays wise, and you just get gassed by the end of it. There's really no way around it. You could be the best conditioned guy of all time if you're, on the field nonstop. You're going to get tired. So.
Ball State has the players, man. They got the players on offense. That's what That's what I've seen. It's just the wrinkles, John. They got to throw in some wrinkles on offense and to be able to build on this year. Watch the film, learn from it, learn where you can get better from it, and that's where you can see the growth. Because they got the playmakers, and they got playmakers coming. So that's a positive we can kind of look into going into next year after this last game.
Mm-hmm. Now, Colin, do you have anything else on the offense, whether it be yesterday or just in general, before we move on to who I think everyone would agree is the superior of the side of the ball right now in the defense?
You guys were talking about rebuilding this team in the offseason. And I'll tell you exactly who I would call is Caden Samanza. See if he'll come back next year. See if he'll go one more year. Because, he's at Tulane now, and he's honestly, like, no disrespect, but he's kind of wasting his eligibility at Tulane. They haven't played him any, and it looks like Rhett Slaff is going to be John Summerall's guy. So, and he kind of got like baited into that because there was a TJ Finley got kicked off the team, and then it looked like Caden Simmons was going to be the starter, and at the last second, here comes this guy from BYU. So I don't know if he would consider that, or if Coach U would even want him, because I think he's just a run first kind of coach. Like, he wants his quarterback to be run first. But scheme wise, next year, like, if we're going to do the same sort of scheme, we've got to open it up. It's got to be opened up. It can't just be the same, what we've seen so far, and as far as, like, you guys mentioned the defense too, like next year, you guys are like, oh, we got a great defense. Next year, the defense will be good too. We are losing Voris, which is going to be huge. I know it's just one guy, but like, he made all the difference in a lot of games. We'll lose Stemler, and then Darren Conley, I'm pretty sure. So there's gonna be some guys we might miss on the defensive side, but you can, like you guys were saying, in the offseason, you can just flip that roster. So as long as we keep like Donovan Hamilton, TJ Horton, Quay Ashley, because I think Quay Ashley has another year of eligibility, and we get a good quarterback in there, and like Willie said, throw in some wrinkles, because like that's the thing, guys, we did not see players just wide open. Other than, I haven't seen it since Cam Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
It's I feel like we ask Kyle to throw people open, because it's never just like one dude just with nobody on him. Like, I don't know, like, it's been, I kind of got away from it there, John, but yeah, it's
one thing I believe, again, in the transfer portal, world, you never know who's going to come back and who's not. I believe Darren Conley is able to come back if he wants to. I think he has some eligibility left. But you brought up a good point with the Caden Simmons thing. I want to pose this question to both of you, because this world of college football is so much different now than it has ever been. So my question to you would be, and for Coach Urimovich, I guess. So Caden Simmons, if this is a quarterback that you like and someone that you want to bring back, or even a quarterback just like him, very different and runs a very different offense than Kyle Kelly does. Much more of a pocket passer, sit back and throw. In this world of the transfer portal, and Willie, I'll start with you. Does it make more sense to build your offense around the people that you have, or to just run your offense as a coach and try and make that work? So do you kind of just tailor it to the guys you're able to get in the transfer portal, and is it maybe looks different every single year? Or do you just say, hey, this is my offense, this is what we're going to run, and we're going to make it work with whoever is here? What would you do?
Yeah, I think you definitely have your foundation in your offense, right? You have your base foundation that you install with everybody. And based on the talent you have, the guys that you have, you tailor your offense to your players, right? Within the scheme. So, if you got guys that aren't as fast, that aren't burners, right? You're adjusting your offense to where your guys are getting open through different ways versus them just running away from people, right? Because that's there's like a lot of generic plays. There's a lot of generic playbooks where it's like more just install plays and go run them, right? It's very lack of watching tape and scheming up a defense to where you're getting certain guys open that, quite honestly, probably aren't the most talented guys, right? We don't get the 5-star guys, the 4-star guys at Ball State, right? We get the lower level guys, the no star guys, the 2-star guys, right? So, you know, the talent isn't as great as if we were at Alabama. So offensively, you got to throw some creativity in your scheme to where you can scheme guys up to be wide open, right? They don't have to, run away from somebody to be wide open. No, within the scheme, within the concept, guys can get open through the certain play design. So, I just think like honestly, as long as you have your foundation in place, that's what you do day one, and then you find out what guys are strong, where their strong suits at, what you think your offense is going to be good at, what your quarterback strengths are, because he might be a better passer, but he might be athletic enough to be able to run the offense and use his legs in certain points, right? So, and even if he's not a runner, right? How do you use what are just some different ways to be able to use his legs in different ways, right? You can use the receivers as like his legs, like if they're doing like bubbles or slides or it's going to the flats, right? That's a extension of the run game, right? That's just another type of RPO. So it's just being creative in that way, and that's where you really see like these offensive coordinators, these offensive minded guys who are getting these jobs, with head coaching positions because of just their creativity in their offense. All those guys have a base foundation, a base playbook, and then depending on the talent they have, John Collins, just like they tailor that offense to what the strengths are for their players, and then that's where you see the guys getting most out of the offense, right? And then now you see guys wide open. Guys understand the offense, the schemes, what they're trying to do each and every week. It just changes, especially if you have a guy like that who's just is really in tune with that type of that stuff when it comes to offensively calling plays and installing.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
So, Colin, I'll kind of pose the same question to you. If you're in the transfer portal, are you looking for the best available guys, or are you looking for the guys that fit your scheme the best? Which, if you were the head coach, which would you be doing? Would you go out and take, let's say, a former 4-star pocket passer, but that doesn't necessarily fit your offense? What kind of would be your philosophy if you were the head coach?
I'm taking best available. I think
Mm-hmm.
that just makes sense with what Ball State is as a program. We can't be overly choosy or specific, like how we talked about on that last episode with Miles McLaughlin,
Mm-hmm.
that running back from Knox. Like, yeah, offer him. We got to take those chances. If you've got a guy that's a former 4-star recruit, I'll give you guys an example, like Malachi Nelson. I think he's kind of like fizzled out everywhere he's been, really. But like UTEP might have been his last spot. If he still had eligibility, I would even say, I know it hasn't worked out in those places, but like offer him and don't just him be the only guy, but like at least offer him to come aboard because somebody saw something, and at some level of football, he was exceptional. And I think if you get the right coaching, I think that really makes a difference. So I would say best available, John.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay, I think that wraps up the offensive thing. Unless anybody has anything else, it's just very frustrating to watch because, like we talked when we had Keith Winning on. When I was in school, I'd turn on the TV or I'd show up to the shoe and I'd say, okay, who's going to have 100 yards today? Is it going to be Willie? Is it going to be Jawan? Is it going to be, Jamil Smith? Is it going to be Jordan Williams? And that is just not even a consideration right now. Right now are we going to even have 100 passing yards today?
Right.
So it's just like, I know we all know that this can change and Ball State, can have a prolific offense. We've seen it, in the Pete Limbo era. We saw it at times in the Mike New era. And it's like, hopefully we're able to see it in the Coach U era here soon because, it makes it a lot more fun if we can see something like that. So,
John and Willie,
yeah,
no Quay Ashley does make a huge difference though, and we haven't like
it does.
spoken too much on it, but that he carried a lot of the offense. Like when Kyle didn't do something, it was really Quay that was going to be the next guy to do it. And without him, it's been like Kyle's a Batman with no Robin, kind of. It's just been everything's a lot tougher. He doesn't have that same help, that same chemistry. And TJ Horton, I think, has done a good job, but I like him at that 1-2 punch because I think him and Quay give me something different. So yeah, I just think that's something noticeable because we beat Kent State, and that's the game he got injured. Ever since then, the offense hasn't looked, I mean, even as close to what they did, in Akron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll see how that kind of going forward. Obviously, injuries are always an unfortunate part of the game, but you got to hope that you got people on the backside of it who can step up, and unfortunately, it's just not the case right now. So, okay. We've labored on the offense enough. I think we've been hard enough on them. Again, if anyone out there is watching and wants to get in on the conversation, put your questions, put your chats in wherever you're watching, and we'll read them all at the end of the show. So, defense, guys, I'll kind of start here with one thing real quick, and then I'll kick it to you guys. Darren Conley, if you're listening right now, that second touchdown that Toledo scored, you got held so bad on that, and I cannot believe they didn't throw a flag on you. So, you throwing your hands up, they held you bad on that play. So, I'm taking 14 points off the board right there. Can I do that? Is that allowed?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so, all right. You guys lose a touchdown, Toledo. I'm sorry. That's just the rules. So, Colin, I'll start with you defensively. Again, you look at the score, 38 points. That's not going to win games for you. I don't think that tells the whole story here. But what was your kind of takeaway defensively at times? Because at times, they forced some turnovers. They gave them shorter fields. They did some good things yesterday. They were just on the field the whole time. So, what do you think about the defense for the Ball State Cardinals?
Defense, again, was a bend, don't break kind of mindset. The unfortunate thing that really happened to them is they got put in so many positions where their back was to the wall. It was like maybe 35 yards till the end zone. And that's why the score looks like how it does, unfortunately. But a couple turnovers. I know McLean had a pick. He's been really good for us this year. I like seeing him pop. A couple turnovers. The defense in general was solid. I always, you would see people back there about to make a play right before something happened. And, they never quit. And, when it gets bad like that and the offense isn't really responding, like they kept them at 14-3 for a really, really long time. I kept thinking in my head, like, okay, now the offense it's time to give the defense back something for keeping you in it for so long. And it just never happened, and eventually that bend but don't break mindset eventually, they kind of gave a little bit at the end there, but for a while they kept it really close, trying to just see if our offense was going to get going. And for that, I got to give them a little credit. I thought they actually played better than the score would indicate.
Yeah, there was a time at some point sometime in the second quarter where it had been all Toledo nonstop the whole time, and Ball State had the ball and was kind of driving. They had a chance to make it. It was get it within a 1-score game there, and then that's basically all she wrote there. Willie, I know you've been impressed with the Ball State defensive backs at times and their ability to create turnovers, which I know you've been fighting defensive backs basically your entire life pretty much at this point. What'd you think of the Ball State DBs or just the defense in general? And I know there's not tons of good things to say from everything yesterday, but what are your overall thoughts on the defense from yesterday?
Yeah, I think they played tough. When you see a running back go for 132 yards, that's tough to see in a touchdown. They wanted to run the ball early, and they made that known. And they kept the running back at bay for most of the game. Like Colin said, there was that score from like 14-3, 14-6 for a long time before it broke open. But there was some plays, outside of those 2 picks, there was the quarterback still threw for 4 touchdowns, so they did give up some busted coverages on the back end where guys were running free and scoring touchdowns. I think that still needs to continue to get better because we've seen that throughout the year where these guys have had busted coverages where guys are running free down the middle of the field and catching touchdowns. especially on those deep posts. So, there's obviously a lot of room to improve for this group, but this bunch has shown that they are an opportunistic bunch. They're not afraid. They will continue to attack and fight all game. And when the opportunity comes to make plays, they make the plays. So, that is really good to see. It's encouraging going into next year, but this group has to clean up the busted coverages because, in those close games that they will be in next year, those type of plays can break a game open or break our back, so to speak, just with trying to stay in the game or, working to make a comeback. You give up a play like that, that's a backbreaker, and sometimes those are hard plays to come back from. So, I really want to see them continue to grow in that area next year. But I think, honestly, they put up a really good fight for a Toledo team that's playing at their best right now, and they're playing for a MAC championship, hopefully. So, I still give them their credit because they're going out there fighting and putting out their best, even when the offense isn't really giving them any help for most of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, you could just look at the scores and stuff, and you say, "Man, what are you guys talking about?" But if you're watching the games every week, you can see these stretches where the defense is really keeping Ball State's hopes of winning a game alive as best they can, and that is not the case how it was last year. So shout out to Coach Knowles. The fans who are watching the games have noticed the improvements of the defense from last year to this year because the defense last year was basically what we're saying about the offense right now. They could not stop anybody anytime all year last year. And so we're seeing stretches in these games where they're able to get after him a little bit. So, shout out to the defense the best we can. And there's one more game this year. And obviously a lot of their goals and aspirations are out the window now, but for Ball State fans, this game still does mean something. We'll get to that here in just a little bit, but we'll kind of wrap it up with these guys with special teams from yesterday. Colin, I know you're our special teams enthusiast here. Hit me with something positive from special teams, and then we'll kind of move on to our kind of takeaways here.
Special teams might have had the high point of the day. You got a 47-yard field goal. That's just something we haven't been able to make this year. I know we missed a shorter one and then missed a PAT later, but like Willie said, it's just been inconsistent in general. But yeah, the kicking was eh. And then we got the punt game actually looked pretty decent. And then that's really it. Not a whole lot to report this game, John, honestly.
We'll say we had a couple of kick returns of 20 yards or more, which I'll always take that too. And this is sounding kind of sad now because we're as Ball State fans, we're sitting here. Hey, man, we had a couple kick returns over 20 yards yesterday. So yeah, we like that. So, Willie, anything to add on the special team side?
No, yeah, Colin hit it. We went 1 for 2 on the field goals. DC hit the long one, which was good to see. Adam Saul had another strong game, just field position wise, trying to put their offense backed up, give our defense a long field for them to go. But yeah, for the most part, special teams were just up and down. But like we keep saying, that we just got to see this bunch be more consistent. And, hopefully going into next year, we're just more consistent on being trying to create a turnover, creating a game-changing play, whether that's a return, a turnover. We just got to be more – we got to be more involved. Our special teams got to be – they got to be able to make more plays and game-changing plays for us to help get victories because, we need all three. We're not good enough to just win our offensive defense. We need all three teams to get the job done. And I'm just with the games that we had a game-changing play on teams, we've won those games. So going into next year, I'm looking for that group to be a little bit stronger than this year.
Before we kind of go into our takeaways and starting to look ahead to Miami, I wanted to jump back to defense here because there's something in the chat here. I wanted to put up and give this person a chance, if they're still listening, to maybe give us a little bit more insight. And this is from Mr. Voras over on YouTube. He said Nathan was given 6 snaps in the whole second half on defense. So Nathan Voras, obviously, Ball State's premier defensive player. Mr. Voras, if you're still listening, do you have any insight on why that happened? Is that an injury thing? Is that just not getting any more? I don't know. I would be curious as to why, our best player by far on defense is playing so little snaps in the second half. So, Mr. Vores, if you have any more info on that and are willing to divulge it, let us know. We will we'll kind of circle back to that.
Maybe
So,
the score. Maybe the
could be.
score was out of hand or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think in Nathan's case, a guy who's hoping to play at the next level after the year he's had, he'd want as many
Right.
reps and as many things he can get on film and stats as well. Obviously, the
He's
sacks.
he's at 11 sacks right now. He's at 11.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly. I know he's been like 2 off here recently.
Yeah.
So I would think he wants as many reps as he can get because he's hoping to play at the next level, and all the tape you can get is good. Willie can attest to that. The more tape you get, the better in any scenario. So I wouldn't think it would be a score thing. So yeah, and Mr. Ward's saying no injuries, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm perplexed on that one. Okay,
Star player.
yeah, still at 11 sacks. He's saying too. So so he's still got one more game. He can get that.
That record
Still within reach, but it's going to have to have a big game next week. So, okay, Colin or Willie, whoever wants to start. I'll go. I've been starting a lot with Colin tonight. Willie, I'll start with you. What's kind of your main takeaway from this game, and then we'll kind of turn the page to Miami.
It's hard to take any good away from this game. This is just a game we wanted to see them be more competitive in, right? I think we all knew the outcome, what it was going to be for this game, but we all wanted to see them be competitive. And I think the defense showed a lot of grit like they've have all year. They need to still continue to get better on the back end, and the offense is really the focal point of just getting better. Because, like, honestly, if the defense, if they respond to all the times the defense got them out 3 and out, or the turnover, and we were able to capitalize with points, it's a totally different game, right? And I think our defense plays better. They play differently when we're either in the game or ahead in the game, and that's something we haven't been able to see all year. But offensively, man, it's hard to watch because it's there's no consistency, there's no rhythm. Third downs are just they're hard to watch, and there's no easy way to say this, but Kyle holds the ball too long, and he's just like a target out there. And I feel bad for him sometimes because he's taking a lot of shots.
Mm-hmm.
But this last game, man, we just gotta have some pride about it. This is rivalry week throughout most of college football. So there's some pride in this game. If it means anything to them, this is the last game for the seniors to ever put on a Ball State uniform. So there's a lot that goes into this game, and just going into this last one, man, there's a lot to play for. There's a lot of pride in this game. And, I think we all can just say, let's just be more competitive, because the Miami of Ohio is tough. They look good this year. So we're going to have to really come to play, because this turnout could be even worse than Toledo, from what I saw them put up, from what I saw them play a couple of days ago. So, yeah, they just got to play better, man, all around. They just got to continue to work. Coach Hughes got to continue to get the best out of these guys, because right now it just doesn't look good, from our point of view.
Mm-hmm. Colin, I'll pose the same question to you here. Final takeaways from this Toledo game before we kind of turn the chapter to Miami of Ohio.
My final takeaway is we got to trash that film like from last week. It's just same thing Willie's saying basically is like, we got to fight next week. It's the Red Bird rivalry. Mm-hmm. And we just lost the Brown stock this year. Forever. It's gone. There's nothing we can do about it. 5 or 6 years down the line, we might see it. This is all we got is the Red Bird rivalry, right? So it's our one rival. It's the last game of the season. I'm almost positive, 99% to 100%. I'm gonna go back and watch it. But we asked Kyle who his favorite team to play in the MAC was, and I'm pretty sure he said Miami, Ohio. Mm-hmm. So what more do you need to get up for a game? It's the only rival left. You already lost to the other rival. That should leave a bad taste in your mouth already, and that trophy's gone, long gone. So we got to fight next week. And if we think about it, we've been blown out 4 times this year. Auburn, Toledo,
Purdue,
Western Michigan, and Purdue. Yep, those are the 4. Now we're 4-7. So you take those 4 losses away. When the game is close, we win more often than we don't. I know it sounds crazy, but if we can keep them tight, we tend to pull those out. We're 4-3 in close games. So I just think, just fight like hell. We're playing for the team. We're playing for the name on the front and the back. And it's cliche, but it's true. So you got to go out. You got to have some pride. It's a Redbird rivalry. It's our only rival right now. Like the other rival just scram. They hit the MAC. They left the MAC. They're gone. This is it. So we got to go out there and hopefully show people something and get a dub if we can, man. They're down. They're starting quarterback. It's not impossible. Mm-hmm. It's not impossible.
Yeah, when I'm sitting here, I think if Ball State as a team sat down before the year and they wrote down their goals on a piece of paper, the top would have said, win the MAC championship. The second would have said, win a bowl game. The third would have probably said, win the Bronze Stalk. And the fourth, as a fan, I would say, is to win the Redbird rivalry. Now, unfortunately, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, those top 3 ones have kind of evaporated before our eyes. And if we don't do something drastically different next week, the last one is going to evaporate in front of our eyes as well. And at that point, even though it's the first year for Coach U, and even though they'll have, they've already surpassed the win total for last year, people are not going to be left with a good taste in their mouth with how this has gone. Because, if we rewind 4 or 5 weeks ago, guys, we were sitting in a very, very easy path. Not easy. I guess easy is not the right word because there's no easy games in college football. But you had a very, very visible path to reach all of those goals still. And obviously, as the MAC championship, was that going to be, super feasible? Probably not. I don't think any of us are sitting here thinking we thought this was a MAC championship caliber team. But we definitely thought this could be a bowl caliber team if you go back 4 or 5 weeks with, some of the wins they were able to get. And that has just all kind of gone away. And so while, again, everyone's, I think, is fair to give Coach U some time, I'm going to give him some time. And I think that they have a really good chance to get this thing where we want it in the future. But as of right now, going into this offseason, it just doesn't feel like that just because of the recency bias. And I'm trying to not fall into that. So I guess my point is they still have one goal on that sheet that's uncrossed yet. That's still within reach. And it's a big one for the fans. And it should be a big one for the players and the coaches. And it's go win that rivalry trophy. And like Colin said perfectly, this is the last one we have for right now. Now, will another one pop up? Maybe. Who knows? Will we play at Northern Illinois again down the road? Maybe. Who knows? But as of right now, this is all we got. So we got to figure out a way to get this thing because I want to go into this offseason on a positive note. I don't want to go on a negative note because if we see next week what we saw this week, we're going in on a big negative and no one's going to be happy. And I know the people in that building are not going to be happy. And I know the fans aren't going to be happy. So they got a big test this week. It's a very good opponent that they're going to be playing and they just got to figure it out. So speaking of the opponent this week, Miami of Ohio. I know there's a lot of history between these two programs. Obviously we got a trophy game now. It's a newer trophy, but Willie, can you kind of just go back in your time? I know Miami was not as great of a team back when me and you were in school, but what are kind of some of your memories from playing Miami of Ohio back in the day?
It was always competitive. These guys, they take a lot of pride in their football. They've been good. They've won MAC championships, right? So they love their football out there. So it's respectable, what they got going on over there. So we always had to bring our A game. I'm just kind of thinking back. We played them in 2012. We won 31-24. That was a close game that came down to the wire. We played up there at Miami of Ohio. Are we playing? We're going up there, right? We're playing up there.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's on the road.
Yeah. So they got a nice stadium. They got a nice little, outing up there. But they take pride in their football, man. And then the next year, 2013, they came down and they came to Muncie. We blew them out for our last home game, senior game. So it's always a tough rivalry, man. It's like. It's one of those games that you get up for, man, and you look forward to it, and you always gotta bring it up for these rivalry games, right? So we have always had tough outings against this team, but I think it was the 2013 season where we kind of beat up on them pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But they got MAC championships over there, man. They play respectable ball. and they're pretty strong this season, even with the quarterback situation. Like I think they're going bowling if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken. They're
Yep.
in a
They
good
are.
position. So
So,
yeah,
Colin, same thing for you. Over the past 5 years, there's been some big games between Ball State and Miami, Ohio, and Ball State seemingly always is on the losing end of that. You look back to a couple years ago. I know we talked about Kyle about it going into that last game. Both teams sitting at 5-6. The winner goes to the
5-7.
Bahamas Bowl. We
hmm
lose that one. I know last year we had that home game where we ended up not being able to pull it out. Miami was a very good team. And then the big one to me is the game in 2020. The only game we lost that whole year was Miami of Ohio week 1. Coach New had some pretty questionable timeout situations there at the end of the game where if that doesn't happen, Ball State theoretically goes undefeated that year and would be, mark the best year, which a lot of people already mark it that or 2008, probably 2008 in most people's eyes, but that and 2008 is the two best years overall for Ball State. But, Colin, same thing with you. Miami of Ohio, when you think about Miami of Ohio and Ball State Redbird rivalry, what comes to mind and how much do you want to win this game this week?
Nothing I want to do more than, end the season with a dub and be able to come on here and like just gloat about how good the team looked. Because it's hard in itself to go and watch a game like that Toledo and Ball State, especially when they put to belt to bottom like that. But sometimes like tough cookies, we're still gonna come on here and break it down because we care. So like yeah, there's nothing more because it stinks when you go into a 3-game skid to end the season and we got to come on here and talk to the fans and tell them like, look, next year hopefully it's going to be better,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully it will be. But like to go out 5-7 with the Redbird Trophy would leave something positive on people's brains from this season to just reflect
Mm-hmm.
back and say like, you know what, this season was better than last year. This season was better than 2 seasons ago. Like this is the best season we had in 3 years. Like
all right.
even though it's not the season we wanted, it's better than what it can be if we go out there and lay another egg and Miami, Ohio treats us like Toledo does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm be real honest with you. I'm tired of the days of being in conference games, being almost a 30-point underdog. I'm tired. I'm tired of it. I'm ready for that not to be the case anymore. I'm ready to get back to 10, 11 years ago when I was sitting in the stands as a student. Mr. Sneed was suited up on the now visitors sideline, and we were putting the belt. We were putting the belt to the ass. I'm ready to get back to that, and that's why it stinks to have to come on here on days like this when it's like, man, there's nothing to even be positive about, really. So, I want to be positive. I love Ball State football. I know you guys love Ball State football. I know everyone watching loves Ball State football. Well, I assume you do. If you don't love Ball State football and you're watching this, shout out, you're the sickest of the sick people because we're sick enough sitting here talking about Ball State football. You're watching if you're not a Ball State fan, but we appreciate you watching if you are. So,
That's right.
yes, I'm ready to get back to those days of the Pete Lembo era and 2020, and there's flashes. And do I expect Ball State to be one of the best teams in the group of 5 every year?
Hell
No.
yeah.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I hope that's the case. But am I expecting that with the situation Ball State's in? No. But I would love for that to be the case. And there's flashes where we are one of the best teams in the group of 5. We've seen them. And I want to get back to that. And I think everyone out there wants to get back to that. So,
Yeah.
boys, we got just a couple things here. Not a ton of people putting in questions tonight, but I'll get one thing from Mr. Forrest, that one more thing he has. And it's, the last 4 weeks have been the same offense. And, the 4 teams, they've been ready for us because we look at the last 4 weeks. Who we have the last 4 weeks? We've had Toledo, smoked us. Eastern Michigan, not the best defensive team of all time, and they were ready for us. Kent State, I know we ended up winning that game, but we did not look very good on offense most of the game there.
Mm-mm.
And then Northern Illinois. So yeah, he's right. All these teams they've been ready for us. And yeah, like Kent State, really, aside from one play, they were ready for us too. And so,
Right.
we kind of talked about it earlier. It's like, yeah, teams have figured us out, and we have not figured out how to stop teams from figuring us out. And so, until they do that, we can expect some of the same.
Looking back, John, how was NIU ready for us and we weren't ready for NIU? Like all
No
they
idea.
do is run the ball.
Yep.
I just don't understand that. Like looking back, and we're gonna do the final postseason grades, probably sometime after next week. But like, that's the game looking back that I'm like, how did we blow that? Like, we had it right there. To even if we beat NIU and we lose to Eastern Michigan and lose to Toledo, we're still going into this game like, hey,
Correct.
everything is on the line. Miami
Yes.
doesn't really blow us out normally. Like, that's the game looking back that I'm just like, man, it makes me sick to my stomach.
Well, and I'm looking at Northern Illinois scores right now. It's like the only team that didn't figure out, aside from UMass, which I hate that where I'm going to put us in the same class as UMass right now. Us and UMass are the only two teams in MAC who haven't figured them out this year. Everyone else has handled Northern Illinois pretty easily, and it just stinks because that's like the biggest number one game all Ball State fans wanted to see a win in, and we are the only teams who couldn't figure us and UMass. I don't want to ever be in the same category as UMass on anything, but we kind of are right now. So, okay, I'll kick it to you guys for any last final thoughts. Colin, first with you. Any last final thoughts before we sign off here tonight?
Hopefully we get a dub next week. Wednesday, I think it is, with Jonathan Newsome. We're looking forward to that. Sorry for the people that like we put out the little flyer and like retweeted it. So if you're here to see Jonathan Newsome, make sure you come back our next episode. Everybody else, make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe, stay, put that notification on to get alerts when we're about to go live and whatnot. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to keep trying to give good feedback on the team and everything going on, especially after the season. So we're going to try to keep this going.
Yeah, and again, everyone out there listening, unfortunately we had some technical difficulties with Jonathan. We think we have him figured out, and so Wednesday at 8:30, be back here. We'll have him on then. It should be a great interview. We wanted to make sure we got the best product out there for you guys, and we think that's going to be with a video interview. And so it'll be great. He's a cool guy, and obviously he's a great Ball State player and played in the NFL with the Colts. So I know a lot of people who are Ball State fans are also Colts fans. So he'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll make it work then. So Willie, same thing for you. Any last thoughts on basically anything?
No, I just appreciate everybody again. Appreciate you guys coming on tonight, Sunday night. Sorry about the technical difficulties with Jonathan. He'll be on Wednesday. He was looking forward to it. He was frustrated. He felt bad. So we're gonna try to make sure that's not an issue this coming Wednesday. But for all you guys that showed up, appreciate you again. It sucks talking about Ball State losses, man, but we're here to give you guys the best, feedback and kind of an in-depth idea of what this team is dealing with and what they're going through. So we appreciate you guys' support and everything, and appreciate Ball State football too. We support the guys, we support the coaching staff. We want these guys to finish up this year strong, finish with a dub, and hoping these guys have a great week of preparation. Hope you guys have a great week. Going into this Thanksgiving week.
Yep, and, true.
It's a lot to be thankful for, right?
Especially that's right. That's right. Yeah, and so we're hoping that these guys get after it and make this last week of the season the best it can be, and we're sitting here on Saturday celebrating a dub after we've been eating turkey for the last couple of days, and we'll get on here Sunday and maybe we can get some pictures of the Redwood rivalry. I don't know how often we've seen it. We haven't seen it very often. It's kind of eluded us, definitely even more so than the run stock. So, all right, boys, we'll get back at it Wednesday. Again, we'll have Jonathan Newsome on Wednesday, and we will preview the Miami Ohio game a little bit more in detail. So until then, we appreciate you, everyone out there in Cardinal land. Like they said, go over there on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to leave comments, like it, interact with our posts when you see them. We appreciate it. We love talking to our fans, and we love talking Ball State. So until Wednesday, chirp, chirp, and go Cardinals.